Okay.
So, welcome everyone. It's with great pleasure that we welcome the renowned Turkish artist Murat Palta to our cultural event. He is known for his unique and creative artwork that combines traditional Ottoman miniature painting with contemporary pop culture references. His lecture today will be centered around Ottoman miniature, traditional medieval art, and Palta's rendering of this artwork from a contemporary perspective. Palta will also explain his working methods, as well as his ties with popular culture and how he relates this as a language in his body of work. And enjoy.
I think you should do my presentation each time because you explain a lot better than I do regarding my work. But without further ado, let me share my screen. Hold on a second, please. And presentation here should be ready. Yeah. We're on Keynote now. And here on Zoom, let me share my screen. However, you must enable my permission.
I think you have permission.
Hold on a second. Let me try again. No, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on, I got you. Participants. More. Tuba, can you make Murat a co-host? I think that would be fine. You're muted.
Yeah.
Can you make?
Oh, okay.
All right, Murat, you should be able to share your screen now.
All right, let's try again. Yeah. So you should be seeing my screen, my very first page, right? All right, let's play. So like Tuba said, my work is roughly oriented around Turkish miniature art. What we call miniature is basically traditional manuscript illuminations, and we call them miniature art in eastern part, Persia, countries like India, Ottoman, they all called miniature art. It's quite different from what we imagine when someone says miniature in general. So my art consists of traditional Turkish art as well as Eastern art, Eastern traditional art, and they are all blended with popular culture. As you can see here on the left side, we can see Darth Vader dressed like a sultan, which was my very first work that I created during my last year in the university as my graduation project. And I thought it would be a good idea to, start from that idea, because I studied graphic design and I was more focused on illustration, which is a branch of graphic design. And I realized there are lots of connections between miniature art and illustration because, like I said, they are all centered around illuminate the written text in manuscripts. So basically, they are the illustrations of their time. So I thought it would be a good idea to move on from that idea and create more modern themed miniature art. So I started with Darth Vader, I mean Star Wars. Like I said, you can see Darth Vader in the center and the stormtroopers looking like Janissaries, and it continued ever since. And like 10 or 12 years, I've been doing this type of art style. So here on the middle, you can see the Little Prince, and on the right side, we can see 2001: Space Odyssey. And there's another scene from Kill Bill. And here you can see Kill Bill is written on the left side, upper left corner, while on the right side we see it reads gelin kendine yapılanların intikamını almaktadır. Roughly we can translate as the bride is taking revenge of for what's done to her. At first I didn't think about text or manuscript or those sentences or the titles, but my teacher thought it would be a good idea to put some text on it as well, since I studied graphic design and they were really adopted that idea, you know, approaching everything in sense of graphic design. So I had to make a solution for that, because, you know, Latin alphabet wouldn't work on that kind of look. So I thought it would be a good idea to make it look like some kind of Arabic inscription. Here we see Pulp Fiction on the left side, and on the right side, this one was made on a later time, like I don't remember, but I guess 2016 or something. The graduation project took place in 2012 or something. I don't really remember. But on the right side, we see Portal. I don't know if you are familiar with the game. Here we can see shell placed there and opening portals. Here, another scene, another miniature from Big Lebowski. The main idea was to make it look like a illumination from manuscripts from an Ottoman era. And to emphasize that look, I tried to make it organic as much as it could. You can see those torn parts, you know, there are some colors are smudged and that type of style, and I didn't want it look so how to say, modern, so to speak. At first glance, I wanted to make it look like a traditional art, and when you look closer, you can get the details, like Big Lebowski sitting on the right side, and here in the middle we can see Jesus placed there. And another thing is to understand my approach, we should also take a look at traditional variations of the that art style. Here we see examples from miniature art from various areas of Ottoman Empire. Here we can see the very same subject in the middle and on the right side, and they are miniatures from Surname. It's exactly written as surname in English, but it has whole another meaning. We can basically translate like Oh, it's really hard. I shouldn't even attempt that, but it's mainly centered around some celebrations, some festivals took place in Istanbul, and it happened twice. One took place in around uh, like 16th century, while other took place in 17th century. And they took like 50 days or so, and there were various, you know, events took place. Like we can see some coach is riding over a rope, which are placed on two different ship there. And there were that type of attractions, that type of stuff. And we can see very crowded characters. And this is very the simplistic, very important look on traditional art, because we don't see much people alone, placed alone, and rather than that we see crowded people, and the approach on that is quite important, because back then they didn't want them to make it look personal. I don't know if it's easy to explain, but one's personality shouldn't be in the center, and this was the whole idea. But of course, there are some different approaches on that. We can see singular characters placed on the left and the right side, and it took place in the 17th century. And interesting thing is there were some experimental approaches, even though they look quite alike to each other. I mean, on the right side we can see a woman, and she's a European woman, which is unusual to see in miniature art, because one thing is we don't see female characters much. They don't take place in miniatures quite often. And the other thing is, like I said, there aren't many single characters. And the third thing is we don't see much European characters all at once placed in the miniature that we see on the right side. So, like I said, there are some different approaches on that, and I wanted to continue that idea during my work. And there are some other examples, and we can also see in the details in the middle that ornaments surrounding the main compositions are actually some flowers and animals are placed there. This is also important because I adopted that idea as well. And there are some illuminations on the right side, and they are important as well because actually we don't see much figures in Islamic art in general. Although miniature art is accepted, we don't see much figures. Rather, we see lots of ornaments which are called tesip, and they are mainly illuminations. And on the left side, we see another example which I think is striking because it's another idea that I really wanted to adopt. Here on the left side, we actually see Mexico. It's interesting, and this is from another manuscript from, I'm not sure, but it should be 17th or 18th century. And the manuscript is related to the New World, like South American countries like Bolivia, like I don't know, there are some other countries as well. Of course, Mexico is North America, but it wasn't classified in that way. And not only that, but also we see all those figures looking like characters from Ottoman Empire rather than Western people, because they didn't know what it looked like, what those people look like, and they were all created by what they were told, basically. And I really like that approach, because in traditional art we see their approach on the world they see, the world they perceive, and this is how it affects their culture in visual ways, right? We can even see avocado tree placed on the church, which is quite interesting as well, because it looks like a mosque or something similar here. So I really like that idea, and I thought what it would look like if an artist from that era would live to today. So it was the whole idea. So I created them accordingly. So we see some other examples around the world, and my idea is not 100% original, of course, and I never claimed that, because in some countries like Japan, we see on the right corner, and in the middle we can see a Chinese manuscript related to Jesus, as you can imagine. And on the left side, we see a Persian Second World War propaganda poster. And on the right side, we see a carpet related to Afghan war. So the thing is, miniature art was on demand, of course, and it was the whole perception on art back then. But after adopting the Turkish Republic, and we changed the country as a whole, we abandoned that idea, that approach, that art style, and there was a huge gap in it. And in some other countries, they adopted that approach, they continued, and now we see that they moved to modern illustration approach. So it was another idea. I wanted to move on that idea to point out the gap. So we also see some other examples from Europe. We can see traditional miniature art of Europe. We can see illuminations of lions on the center. We can also see another one on the top. We can see another lion, but it took place in like 19th century during art's new movement. And other examples from Russia. So it was my idea, and I continued creating that, and it was about finding the gaps in between related to illustration, related to miniature art, and transition of Turkish culture. So I moved with that idea, and I tried to emphasize on different traditional art styles in Turkish culture as well. On the right side, we can see other examples from tesip. Like I said, it's called, it's a way to, illuminate the text on manuscripts to add ornament around the text, and they are called zencerik, something like chain. You can see they look like chain, and I really like that approach, and I wanted to integrate with the idea about the story that I tend to tell. Here we can see The Godfather, the scene where he hides the revolver in the toilet, and Michael pulls it out and shoots the guy. So it's the whole idea, and we can see that clearly. But the thing is, surrounding zencerek, the ornament, is a key figure in that, because in the scene, we can hear the train sound. It's slowly, it's a bit related to psychological emphasis on Michael to build up the tension. We don't see the train, we don't see the rails, anything or that, but we can hear the train sound in the back, and it creates a tense feeling, right? So how do I put that? And I try to approach this. I look on the similarities, and the closest thing that I could find was that type of ornament surrounding the main composition here. And I mentioned the animals placed in negative in the background surrounding the main composition. Again, they placed here and there, and we can see them at the first glance, but in the second, we can see the ornaments surrounding the main compositions are actually, animals, trees, flowers, and that type of stuff. And this is a movie called La Anne. It's a French movie, and probably it's quite famous, but I probably butchered the pronunciation, but I don't remember what it's called in English. I guess right or something like that. Here we can see the main character in the middle, and the whole scene, they are on the roof. Meanwhile, we can see the police on the right lower corner placed there, and also we can see on the left the general look on that type of inscriptions, and I also adopted that idea and placed here. Also another look, the same idea, we can see Jurassic Park and the characters and the dinosaurs surrounding the composition. We can see on the right corner they are placed, and they are very afraid of being chased by those dinosaurs, right? And this is why they are a bit outside of the main how to say, frame. And meanwhile, we can see the other type of dinosaurs on the background here, and the logo of the movie is placed on the right in another type of illumination style, another classic tissip style. Here, another movie is called In the Mood for Love. It's a Hong Kong movie that took place in actually 2050, I guess. I don't really remember, but the movie should be taken in 2000 or something like that. And the thing about the movie is a bit claustrophobic, to say the least, because we don't see the outside much. They are usually inside the characters, and usually one or two characters, and the color of red is quite important in the movie. We see the clock ticking all the time, pointing the time that is passing in the movie all the time. And I wanted to combine them all together and wanted to make a connection between China's traditional art and created that scene. We can see again a bit claustrophobic main scene from the movie placed there, and here on the downside, Angkor Wat, which is another important role in the movie. And although we see the Ottoman Empire as a whole, there were, of course, the various types of approach as the time passes. In the late era of Ottoman Empire, there were some inspirations from Baroque and that type of artisan style, and we can see those style in in carvings, on the left side as how to say, what is called? The one is carved on the marble on the left side. I don't really remember the name of it. Or yeah, tombstone. Okay. It's a tombstone on the place left. And it's a traditional style, but on the other hand, it's a new style in the late era of Ottoman Empire. And so I want to move on with that type of ornaments as well. And on the right side, we can see a scene from Black Swan, the movie. Natalie Portman is played as the main actress, and we can see the swans in negative and positive colors placing the both sides here. And another one is The Shining of created by Stanley Kubrick. We can see another similar scene. His wife is cornered in the composition, and we can also see Japanese famous wave placed on the left as a blood wave in front of room 277, and we can also see the text plays all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and the surrounding composition is looking like it's melting, right? Because it is all out of control. Like here in the text, we can see all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy starting regular and in order, and then we see they all over the place. Just like it, we can see the ornament is, melting, getting distorted. And the other thing is I am, of course, not only centered around movies and that type of stuff. Like I said, it's mainly centered around popular culture and current events and important people, key people in history. I was quite inspired by Kim Jong-un's pose watching the experiment he is having in the sunset, and it is quite interesting because it looks like a romantic scenery while what he is doing is a bit concerning, to say the least, and I wanted to put that idea as well here in this composition. And there are some other current events related to I guess I created this in 2016, and as far as we all remember, President Trump was in a bit, how to say, a fight or something. I don't really remember the right word, but there were some negotiations between China, and we can see on the left there, placed on the elephant while China is on the panda, and they are playing tennis on the thin ice carried by various people, and that type of stuff take place in my main composition, but they are more like side stories. So the main idea about that is when we see the miniature art, there are of course some interpretations, there are some innuendos, that type of symbolic storytelling. And as we all know, back then free speech wasn't the case. So they more focused on hiding their ideas in between the stories. So I really like that idea as well, and I place various characters, little stories here and there in my main stories. So that's all.
Thank you very much, Murat. Now,
Thank you.
I think Carrie is here as well. Welcome, Carrie.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, maybe we can just continue with the questions and
Of
comments
course, that's great.
maybe
Of
our
course.
participants have. Thank you. Evet, Muhammed. Yes, we're listening to you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Memnun oldum Murat Bey. My question was, you kind of answered it, gave a little bit towards the end there about artists kind of hiding their political messaging in their writing. But what else about like the Ottoman miniature style? What does it bring out specifically in the modern art in terms of when you're making your art about like modern pop culture, political, that you find
You mean in terms of
the Ottoman
subject
art like lends
or
itself well to, or in an interesting fashion?
so there was a disconnection, I guess. I wanted to ask if you mean the subject that they were centered around the main subjects and that type of style, or the visuals.
It could be both. I was
Okay.
thinking more subject, but I think visual is also important as well.
Subjects are mainly centered around religious subjects, mythological, especially Islamic mythological, or history, or some important events that took place in the Ottoman Empire. For instance, like I said, there were surnames or şenliknames related to those festivals, and there are very few examples related to regular day, simple day in Ottoman Empire. The main reason of that, the paper was luxury back then, and the colors and the gold and that type of stuff. So obtaining that type of manuscript wasn't easy. So the biggest commissioner was, of course, the Sultan himself. So most of the manuscripts, miniatures, was placed in the Topkapı Palace, of course. So it is also related to the look on the miniature art, because we can see vivid colors, golds, that type of stuff, and they all placed in one composition. And it's also important because, like I said, paper was a luxury. It wasn't easy to obtain. Of course, it's easy when Sultan asks, but it turned into some kind of tradition to create the whole composition in one place. So it's actually a bright idea, a bright approach in illustration understanding as well. So it's also a key role in miniature look. Another thing is, I'm really afraid to pronounce that word, but hierarchical, or how do you pronounce it? The most important figure, and they are mostly sultans, are placed a lot bigger than other characters, and the sizes of the characters are related to their importance, and it's another idea to emphasize the main story, the main characters, the main idea what they were trying to imply back then, and they are the very characteristic of miniature art in Ottoman Empire. Is there another?
Yeah. Evet. Merhaba. Murat
Merhaba.
ben memnun oldum. Çok sağ ol. Bir soru sorabilir miyim?
Of
So my
course.
question for you is how how do you or I guess it's like what's your process in terms of deciding what characters to put in like a piece?
It's a good question because it all starts with one idea. There's actually one story, and here we see only a small part of the main composition here in my slide. There's also even more in the upside of this composition, and the main story was related to the Tower of Babylon. So and how do we see the Tower of Babylon today? Because the reason why we have various languages was related to that story. Now we have a common language, so to speak, and it's a pop culture. We can all get references, all that type of stuff, and it unites our language. So it's the rough story in that. So this is the main idea. So I'm pointing out the story of the Tower of Babylon. So what else there should be? So there must be some other popular culture characters, some key figures in history and that type of stuff to support that idea. During that, it can either they could create it impromptu or planned. It's totally up to my mood, but there are some main characters that should take place in that story. So they are all placed already, but we also need some other supporting characters, and it can be come out during my creation.
Çok teşekkürler.
You're welcome. I guess that's all right.
Oh, Mohammed seems to have another question.
Yeah, I have one more question. In your experience with this specific art you're doing, do you find more interest in engagement from Turks, or people in that region more broadly, or from like Western people with your art here?
I could say both. Of course, there are lots of Turkish audiences. I don't know if it's the right word, but there's a huge interest in my art in Turkey, and it's inevitable, of course, but there are lots of feedback from various countries, various cultures. In fact, my very first exhibition was in Italy.
I have a question. So you do a lot of interpretation of pulp culture or political events, or sometimes scenery, but do you like to focus on one type of like films, for example, for a bit, or do you kind of switch in between? Do you switch it up and do something, maybe a film, maybe pulp culture, maybe an event?
I can switch. The first story that I wanted to tell, like I said, it was my graduation project, and I wanted to point out the connection between modern illustration approach and the traditional art in Ottoman manuscripts, and to carry it into a modern place. The subject should be well recognized, as well as it should be more modern. So the best subject to do was, of course, movies, from my point of view, of course. So the other thing is I'm quite interested in pop culture, and also I'm interested in current events, and I'm interested in various cultures as well. So they are all inevitable. So sometimes a movie can be the main subject, or the characters from a movie can be in a supportive role depending on my story to tell.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if you have no other questions. Yeah, okay. I think it was a great presentation, and thank you very much, everyone, for your
Thank you
questions.
for having me here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I believe what you shared with us today just enrich our understanding of traditional Ottoman miniature painting and its contemporary interpretation. Thank you very much for it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
If
it
you
was
have
great.
any other question or anything, just get in touch with Tuba so that she can get in touch with me, or send me an email.
Yeah, I'll be sharing your email with the interested
Yeah, that would be
participants among us.
great.
Okay, thank you.
Let me share it.
Thank you.
Hold on a second.
Okay, you're just adding it into the chat?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
here's my email. You can send me anytime.
Okay,
Thanks a lot for having me here. It was a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much for being with
Have a
us.
good day.
Thank you.
What time is it there, by the way?
It's 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
and there
So,
probably
it
11
should
p.m.
be, yeah, 11 p.m. And
Okay, have a great night
today
then.
was hot as hell. It was unbelievable, and it is still hot. I hope you are having a great day. So